In 2022, I graduated college and literally started my dream job. It had a base salary of $94,000 per year, it had great benefits, all while working for a nonprofit research company with the very noble mission of solving problems for a safer world. It was literally everything that I had ever wanted out of a job. But a little less than 3 years later, I quit. And the reason that I quit is because I had learned three things about money that had changed my life. The first lesson that I had learned is that you are on your own. The company I worked for at the time was a government contractor, and this was a very stable company. They hadn't done layoffs in a very long time, and it was the type of work that was considered extremely safe. But then, after about 2.5 years of working there, everything changed. We had a new administration with new priorities, money was getting shifted around, my entire contract was canceled, and all of a sudden, I started having to prepare for a layoff. So much had changed in just 2 months. Back in January of 2025, I wasn't even considering a probability of getting fired. And then just a couple months later, I was expecting it. The point is that job security really doesn't exist anymore. It's been slowly declining in a lot of other industries, but there have been some industries which are still considered very safe, like government and then academia. But even now, even those are becoming much less safe. On one of my coaching calls a few weeks ago, I talked to somebody who was just 28 years old and very hardworking, who had already been laid off 4 times in his 6-year career. And I think this is only going to become more common. And while I haven't talked about this a lot, I actually am really worried about what AI will do. I think there are so many jobs which are going to go away and that are just not AI proof, especially in the 10-year time frame. And if you've been following this channel for a while, you know that what I'm trying to do is reach financial freedom while I'm still in my 20s. I want to have a career which is less than 8 years long. And one of the big reasons that I'm trying to do that is I do not know what the future holds. And things move so suddenly that if I hadn't been planning in advance and saving money for years up to this point, then I could have been in a much worse financial situation if I had been surprised by that layoff. As it was, I knew that I was safe and I had years worth of living expenses already saved, but so many other people who also had not considered the possibility of losing their jobs, they didn't have that kind of security, which I had sort of accidentally built up. And I've talked to so many people who are planning on a long career. They like their work, so they don't see a world in which they would ever want to retire early, as I sort of talk about. But if AI can replace their job in 10 years, then that might not be an option. So retiring early is not the only reason to try to work towards financial freedom. Even if you love your job and want to work it forever, it might not exist. Financial freedom is about survival when your job disappears, just as much as it's about giving you the option to walk away from a job that you don't want to work. And real quick, if you want to reach financial freedom, but you're not sure what you need to focus on, I created the Financial Freedom Focus Quiz to give you a personalized recommendation about what you should do right now to reach financial freedom faster. It should only take you about 2 minutes, and it's the top link in the video description. And during these first few years, I had actually realized that I also like working. Even though I talk about trying to reach financial freedom, my plan is not to just sit on a beach for 60 years. I'm one of those people who enjoys working, just not on what I thought I would enjoy working on. And that leads me to the second lesson which I learned about money during this time, which is that a dream job is still a job. At this time, I was making what I considered a pretty good income, but I also knew that I had taken a pretty big pay cut compared to what I could have made in order to work for a company who I really wanted to work for. Because while I was making $100,000 per year at my company, I had friends who had gone on to Microsoft or who had gone on to Meta, and they were making probably $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 more per year than I was, and they were also getting stock. But that was a trade-off that I was willing to make leaving college because I hoped that I would really enjoy the work that I was doing. Even though I already knew about the financial independence movement at this time, I was still really holding out hope that I would find a job that I really wanted to do for the rest of my life. And while I can make the work that I did sound interesting, the reality is that the day-to-day was still extremely boring and a little bit soul-sucking. And no matter what, I felt like I had to show up every single day, 8 to 9 hours a day. I only had a few weeks of vacation. I had more vacation than many other companies provide. But even so, I still felt like I wasn't really seeing my friends. I wasn't able to see my family. And for whatever reason, we've just all collectively as a society decided that the workday is just 8 hours of your day. It's almost your entire day. So even though I don't really mind working, I didn't want to trade almost all of my life just for a job that I didn't care that much about. There was just so little flexibility. And even though I probably did enjoy that job more than I would enjoy some other jobs, it still absolutely was not something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And I feel like so many people are in this situation where they try to find a job that they don't hate, that they can tolerate, but it's still not what they would do if they didn't have to work. So instead of trying to find a job which I could tolerate for 50 years, I would much rather just work a job that I don't necessarily like, but that pays well, and then just make this sacrifice now to just reach financial freedom as fast as possible. Because I don't want to compromise for my entire life. I want to live the life that I really want to live and do the things that I want to do. And I don't want to find a job that's just okay, because that means my life is just okay. I want to live a life that really feels worth it. And I realized during this time that the only way that I would really enjoy my life is if I was working on stuff that I was super motivated by. And for me, there's really a few key benefits of having financial freedom. One is that while I like working for myself. I like building my own projects and going all in, and I'll work super hard on those projects. I spend tons of time on this YouTube channel and on my newsletter and working with people and on all the stuff that's sort of related to this little business. And even though I make very little, it feels worth it because it's mine and I'm highly, highly motivated by it. The other thing I've realized is that I really like having options. I hate the idea that I don't have the freedom or the flexibility to change my mind in the future. Because we all change as people, and even if you like something right now, you might want something different later. I just can't stand that sense of feeling trapped and not having those options, even if I wouldn't change anything right now. And the third thing I've realized is that I think to have a really remarkable life, I feel like you have to take big risks and do big, interesting things and take big swings. But I am a pretty risk-averse person, so I realized that I would never take those big risks and go big unless I felt very confident that I was financially free. Financial freedom gives me the ability to invest in other things that I care about and take big chances that might not pay off because I'm not relying on the payoff to pay my bills. And this kind of ties in to the third lesson I learned, which is that money is a means to an end. One of my favorite concepts comes from this book called Your Money or Your Life, which is actually on my bookshelf right here. And what they talk about there is so many people talk about their work as how I make a living. But when you really think about it, you're really not making a living. You're really making a dying. So few people get life back from their work. They were trading their life energy. They were slowly dying away at their work just to surround themselves by junk or live a little bit on the weekends. That's not what I want to use my money for. I want to use my money to allow myself to live a life that I want and to take those big risks and to live and do remarkable things. Money is a tool, and that's what I want to use it for. And so during these few years, I lived on as little as I possibly could. I basically maintained my lifestyle that I had in college, and I didn't let the lifestyle creep of making lots of money change how I lived my life. And this felt very easy because I didn't make a change. I didn't have to pull back my expenses. I just kept living the same way that I've been living for the last 4 years in college. And that allowed me to save up tens of thousands of dollars every year, which I could use as a tool to enable a life that I actually wanted. But I'm still not completely financially free, which is my goal. So let me explain what's next. So as I said earlier, I had taken a pay cut to work for this company because I thought that I would enjoy the work and that it would be worth it. But once I started working that job, I realized that it wasn't worth it. And if I didn't enjoy that work, then why should I take the pay cut? So what I decided to do is to get a job that would help me speedrun my journey to financial freedom, because that is really my end goal. And I don't want to slow down that journey to work a job that I don't enjoy. And I was very fortunate to land that job before my impending layoff at the government contractor. And this new job comes with a 50% raise, so I estimate it'll probably help me reach financial freedom about 1 year faster. Of course, it will also come with a lot more hours worked, but that's what I get paid for. We'll manage. At the end of the day, I would rather work extremely hard right now when I have the fewest obligations, the most energy, and the most motivation. Because my hunch is that I won't want to live the way that I am right now when I'm 40 years old. But right now, it doesn't feel difficult to do what I'm doing. But either way, I would absolutely only do this and recommend this to somebody else if you have a goal. One of the most important things that I try to teach other people is to make decisions with purpose. Because if you work extremely hard, but you don't have something that you're trying to work towards, then you end up burning out. And if you don't even know what you're trying to achieve, then you won't even know if you've succeeded. And eventually, you want to find what's called an infinite game. An infinite game is something that you want to do forever. There's no final end state of it. A really common example is marriage. You don't win in marriage. The goal of marriage is to stay married. The same goes for business. The goal is to just stay in business and keep growing and keep getting better. And for me, my infinite game is this YouTube channel and related stuff to it. My goal isn't to reach a certain point. I don't really care about any specific milestone. My goal is to just keep getting better and keep helping people have the light bulb moments that I had. But right now, my career is a finite game. My career does have an end state, and that end state for me is financial freedom. So I'm working extremely hard right now so that I can reach the end of that finite game. I can win, I can be financially free, and then I can start playing my infinite game for the rest of my life. But in this video, I've only talked about why I quit. But what I haven't talked about at all is how to put yourself in a position where you can afford to quit. I explained how to do that in this video right here, where I go through the exact process I actually went through with one of my accountability buddies to help them save more money, become happier, and have so many more options in life. I think you'll get a ton of value from it.